All right, we're live. Bucky, do the intro.
Cheers. I got a burrito here from the People's Food Co-op.
Nice.
Some people cheers beers. We cheers burritos.
Yeah.
I'm Bucky Beeman, a commercial real estate agent at Realty Growth Incorporated in Rochester, Minnesota. Here with my friend Dallas McLaughlin. Tell them about yourself, Dallas.
Yeah, I am a director of interactive marketing at the James Agency in Scottsdale, Arizona, full service marketing agency with a mix of large and medium clients, still some legacy small clients. So we're working on executions for everybody, all different sizes. So touching on everything.
So I want to jump right into it. What I enjoyed about our last show, Dallas, is I was able to ask you questions that are actually coming up real life right now related to me trying to come up with a strategy for social, not only for my personal brand, but for the company that I'm partners at, Realty Growth. And I was wondering,
Snapchatting.
Thanks for the Snapchat. I was wondering, as I try to build out a year strategy in Google Sheets, and I have it broken down by day, and I have it broken down by week, and I have it broken down by month. Is that what you would suggest? And I'm getting a little feedback on your end, just so you know. So I don't know if it's coming through your mic or what, but is that what you would suggest as far as building out a plan, is doing a spreadsheet? Or how are you doing it with these big companies? Are you planning out a whole year? What does a plan look like for big and medium-sized companies?
There's a few different ways that we do it, and it's kind of weird because there's no one way and there's no right way. So we really, at the start of it, we look at it like, what are we going to do this time? Like, what do we think the best method is going to be this time? For example, our largest client at the moment is Tilted Kilt, which has a very large budget, 97 locations, international. And for them, what we did is we did exactly what you're describing. We started a Google Doc because it's weird. It's free, but it's one of the best collaborative pieces of software out there because we're all in there at the same time. And we mapped it out. I think it goes beyond 12 months just because we had a couple months that led into our 12-month calendar. Top was obviously the months, then it broke out by quarter, and it even broke out by week and the number of that week. And then we'd have like a national event column or row up top where it was like, hey, the Super Bowl's here, March Madness is out here, St. Patrick's Day, soccer tournaments, any national holidays, that listed out across the top. So we just always had a reference to what's going on in the world. And then we broke out departments below that. So public relations, social media, any creative that needed to be made, email marketing schedules, any placed media I'm doing, any traditional media. And then we each were responsible for our section of that. We just went, in this case, we did do the full year because there's a lot of logistics with this type of company because they have franchisees who need to know and need to plan way in advance. So in this case, we did a full year. We mapped out, on this date, I'm starting this Instagram ad targeted at these people. I'm going to spend this much money and it ends on this date. And then this one starts and it targets these people. But at the same time, even though we're mapping that out for the year, it's widely known and accepted and communicated that it's constantly in motion. So just because it's in that cell doesn't mean that is actually what we're going to be doing 8 months from now. So what I always say to people, whether it's the client or internally, when they challenge me or anybody on, you said we were going to do this and now you're changing the plan. What my answer always is, it's a stock answer and it's the perfect answer in my opinion, is I made that decision when I had a certain set of information. Now I have new information, which means it's time for a new decision, which I just made, and then we change it. So yeah, to answer your question, we do the 12 months. There's sometimes we do 3 months, and then we just say we're going to spend this amount of dollar over the last 9, this amount of dollars over the last 9. We don't quite know where yet. We fill it in closer to that time. So it just depends on the client.
So I'm really the beta, if you will, for our real estate firm, and I'm doing it for my own personal brand. And I then want to apply it to the other people in my firm and also the brand that I represent, Realty Growth Incorporated. And I will say for a small business, whether you're pushing your own personal brand or you're pushing a brand that you're part of, like you said, Google Sheets is where it's at. I found a template on Social Media Examiner that kind of explained how you could do it. I haven't Googled much further than that, but I'm sure there's templates out there on Google for a social media or digital plan.
Yeah, we do have individual. So Tilda killed the example there. That's a full service client. They use every department. So every department's on there. But if someone comes to us just for our social media department, we have what's called a social media content calendar, where it's 1 month. It's the upcoming month, because we don't go any further than that in social media. All the dates, what we plan to post on that date, if there's any images or links that go to that, if there's a persona we're targeting with that post, if there's any specific measurable goal, for example, a download that we want to happen because of that post, all that stuff's in that day's cell. So we can really get micro on it as well, departmentally.
That's awesome. And I spoke with a residential real estate agent. We were talking about digital marketing and how she's doing it in Cape Coral in Florida. And we spoke today on a Google Hangout. And one thing that kind of came over me is she asked the question, should I be planning, for example, Florida Friday and something Wednesday and something Monday? And what I found is I only do one specific day, and it's really Thursday market update. That's today on my social media. And then from there, I would recommend as a small business, and I don't know if you'd speak the same for bigger brands, but then planning out your week as a theme, but then you're not pigeonholed into doing something a specific day, because like today it was getting dark. I had other things to do. I had to get it done. And probably my content isn't always as good as it would be as if it was a little more relaxed, if you will. And that can go both ways, but what I thought is probably best for my strategy is having a specific day, like a Thursday, because it forces me to do something, but then having a theme for the week so I can talk about a theme throughout the week on my social stories, such as Instagram and Snapchat. And I think that helps me in my mindset versus being like, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about today. Well, I said on Monday, this week is going to be about Destination Medical Center in Rochester, Minnesota, or this week is going to be about how to use Snapchat in your business. And so thinking about how you can set up your week, I would imagine, is extremely important for a small, medium, and large business. What do you think to that?
Yeah, for sure. That's always our number one priority when we're working as an agency, because agencies in most cases are operating on a finite amount of hours per month. So we only have so many hours to complete so many tasks. And at that point, it then becomes the agency's responsibility to make sure we fit within those hours, or we're losing money. In some cases, we bill a client if we go over on because of something that they caused. But for the most part, we're responsible for making sure that we don't have any fire drills. There's no point in time in the upcoming month where somebody doesn't know what they need to create or doesn't know what they need to post, or we need to go back now, it's day of, and come up with a strategy. There's times it happens because maybe the original strategy changed, or maybe something happened in the real world, and all of a sudden we can't be posting about a buy one get one offer because there was like some terrorist thing, which happens. You have to be able to move things. So we've actually seen that a few times, specifically with that Orlando shooting. It's been several months now. We were quick enough to pull all of our stuff down that was talking, not pull it down, but just not go, if a shooting happens in Orlando and it's devastating and tons of people die, you can't be posting then all of a sudden a cheery status update about something in your business. You need to be a little bit more aware. There was a lot of fallout from companies and agencies that weren't quick to adapt. They just let it roll, and there's consequences for that.
Good point. And I think that then talks to a topic of scheduling. So for a small business, and I'm not doing it as much as I should, but I think scheduling is important. For example, how I am doing it is Hootsuite has a app that you can search hashtags. And then as I search those hashtags early in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee at 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm auto scheduling a few things that are interesting that I'm actually reading, just so throughout the day, stuff is getting posted without that weight of feeling like I need to post on Twitter. It really works for Twitter for me. What's your what's your feeling for small businesses and scheduling business in general, but obviously my focus being a local commercial real estate agent. What's your thoughts?
Excuse me, I've got a cough. So we as an agency typically promote scheduling. So, and mainly because it's our clients and it's not our own business. So it's a little bit more difficult to do it in real time. It's way more time consuming. So we will give our clients a calendar and say, these are all of the things that we have scheduled, things that we've written, creative that we've made, whatever it happens to be. But there's going to be intentional holes left in that calendar for real-time posts. And that is basically either for the client to post something from inside of the restaurant, something we can't do, or maybe we know that there's just going to be something between now and the end of the month that we need to talk about, and then that's where we're going to talk about it. We don't know what that is yet, but we always leave room to place something. It pretty much is never just a jammed calendar where we can't move.
So you would say thumbs up to scheduling, even for a small business?
Yeah, I would say definitely schedule all the things you know you have to hit. So in what I guess to explain a little bit further, we know on a monthly basis, for example, we have a security company who's rather large locally. We know on a monthly basis that they need to talk to business owners about 3 times a month. They need to talk to family owners, or not family owners, but families 4 times a month. They need to talk to homeowners a few times a month. So we schedule out the business objectives that they just have to talk about, and we leave the holes, and it literally says on their calendar, their in-house social person, so-and-so to post on this day. And so we intentionally leave holes for them to then fill in, but we take care of the business objectives that have to happen.
Awesome. Changing a little bit, when we hear this topic and Gary Vee talks about it, I'm really getting in this mindset of acting like a media company. How are you acting like a media company with the brands that you represent?
So I guess that's kind of the benefit of having a full service agency today, is that, we have the copywriters, we have the social strategists, we have the graphic designers, web designers, we have the digital placed media in me, and the team that I work with, and traditional media buyers. So for example, we have our clients think like media companies because let's say they write a blog post. I can then say, okay, shoot it to our web team who does our emails. This needs to be included in their next newsletter. And then the graphic designers, okay, well then that means I need to make a piece of collateral in that newsletter that links to that piece. Maybe that piece needs better images because the SEO team knows that blogs that have images rank higher. So the SEO team's going to look at it and then say, well, the URL should be a little bit different. It should be a little more keyword friendly. The headline should be this with more keywords. So kind of everybody looks at that piece and puts their input into it and says, this is how we drive the most traffic to that one piece of content. And then this is how we distribute that piece of content through all of these other places. So basically, we're taking what a company used to just view as a blog post, and we're making so much more out of it. And we're going to the people with it instead of just putting it on the website and hoping people come. We're actually going to all of these different channels and putting it in front of the people that need to see it.
So one thing that's, again, come over me over the last couple of weeks and thinking like a media company is I've started kind of paying attention to the local news stations here. They're media companies. And the newscasters, some of them have a videographer. Maybe they're at that level where someone will follow them and they have to go capture the story. Others of them, who usually are generally in their 20s, have to carry a camera, go to wherever the news is, shoot whatever the news may be, get it back to the main station for the 6 o'clock news that's going to come out. And when I saw that and started paying attention to how these individuals are essentially me, there's no difference other than they have a hub that helps make it pretty and put it out at 6 o'clock and add music and add stuff like that. I have that full capability to be my own news channel. The news that I'm sharing is related to commercial real estate, such as the market update that I did today. The news that I'm sharing is also coming from other sources, such as other news stations. It doesn't have to be all purely generated from what I see. Obviously, there are some things I'm going to capture related to commercial real estate that the newspaper is not going to pick up. But when I started thinking about being in that mindset that I am the news station, it started making more sense to me as far as what direction I need to head to create this thing. I'm not in a position, and most small businesses aren't, and it takes a lot of time to get there, to have somebody that can edit, to have somebody that can make sure the sound's good. But we have the camera, and we have the ability to roughly edit with iMovie, Snapchat. I think Snapchat is the best editor out there, if you will, because it's so simple to do with your thumb. What other editing software can you edit footage with your thumb? It's simple. And so I just want to share that, because I feel like these small businesses, and this is even speaking to you so you can share that with your people that you're representing. If the franchisees or the managers or the staff, which is more difficult, start recognizing that they have the power in their hands to get you the news that then can be distributed, you're their editing company, you're the team behind them. But to get them to understand that it's all right there in their hands, I imagine is difficult. And that's the way I explained it to Katie Legase, again, from Cape, it's not Cor, what did I call it? Coral? Cape Coral. I kept saying Cape Coral, and she's like, it's not Cape Coral. I'm like, sorry, I'm from Minnesota. That's how I say it. So when I explained it to her, and she's a residential real estate agent, it seemed to resonate. So I just bring that up as a kind of a thought.
Yeah, for sure. We run into that all the time. We'll have, again, it all depends on the client. We either have monthly calls or bi-weekly calls or whatever it happens to be. And sometimes they come in for these meetings. It just all depends. But just through natural conversation, they'll just randomly drop, oh, 3 months ago, we did this huge charity event. And it's like, why didn't you tell us that? Like, you could have got a bunch of images out of that. We could have got press behind it. We could have had media there. They just think that they're doing these things because they should do them, but they don't quite always think of the big picture. There was one specific case where we had a client in the restaurant business where, they deliver food. I always try to be a little bit discreet about our clients, but they overproduced an order, and they had a bunch of leftover delivery food, and they didn't know what to do with it. And instead of throwing it away, as their drivers continued to go out throughout the evening and deliver the correct orders, when they would see a homeless person, they would give them this food. And for us, it is a little bit selfish, because we're like, wow, we can get so much, like, if we tell that story, so many people are going to care about that. But for one, that's not why they were doing it. So they didn't give us that information. And when we did get that information, we still did put it in their newsletter, and they got massive response out of it. They got so many contact forms. It was weird. It's almost like a gateway for people to then share their other stories about Spinatos. So when they posted it on social and they posted in their newsletter. What's that?
You just dropped the name. So you just dropped the name, so you're going to have to cut that. When you can cut it out of here. If there's anybody watching live.
It's fine. When they put that out there, then all of a sudden people were like, wow, this is great. I love Spinatos. It's fine. I love Spinatos because 20 years ago I had this amazing experience there. So it was like this way to open the door to all these other stories that we weren't getting.
Right. Well, and the thing I think of is, like, there's a treasure chest there of stories of people that you haven't connected with forever, of past customers that, when the internet wasn't what it is today, that would love to share about their experience, but didn't have the opportunity 5 years ago because we didn't have Facebook Live. And so you never know what that could lead to. So I understand, like, hey, look, maybe we don't share because it'll be looked at as kind of egotistical. Maybe Bucky and Dallas shouldn't be talking about this stuff in a live format. It should all be private, and we should keep this all to ourselves. But it's just not the era that we're living in anymore. The era that we're living in is, it's all at our fingertips. So why not? I went to a meeting today. There's 15 people there approximately. We were talking about the affordable housing crisis.
Oh, I think I lost Bucky. Let's give him a minute and then see if he comes back. Oh, no, he's Facebook messaging me. He said, sorry. Look, here's what he's saying. Bucky doesn't like to swear, so he said, it's backwards, but he said 8 shucks. He unplugged his phone and it ate shucks. So let's give him a minute to come back. But what I would add to what Bucky was saying, to kind of pick up the ball and run with it here, he's talking about how he mentioned how people think that we shouldn't be talking about this live. They think that why are we doing this? It's very self-serving. He's still texting me. What I would say to that is when Bucky and I get on this type of conversation, these are conversations him and I are having anyway offline. And for us to then come online, hey, Bucky's back. Hey, Bucky. So I picked up the ball once you disappeared for a second there. Awesome. So what I was saying is you mentioned a point where people think that this conversation doesn't need to be broadcast live. It doesn't need to go anywhere. It's self-serving is what people say. Like even in my office as a marketing agency, people are like, oh, Dallas has reality TV night is what they call it. Like, there he goes, you know, like who cares? And for me, what I always try to tell them is, well, for one, if you're not a fan, that's fine. Just don't watch it. Like that's the simple answer. But number two, the reason I like doing this with you is because it allows me, and just like we've had this conversation about Snapchat, it allows me to get comfortable just talking about this stuff off the cuff. It allows me to share things with you and then you to share things back with me. And then what has come out of a lot of these conversations with you and I is I'll be saying things and then you're like, whoa, like slow down, Dallas. Like, I don't know what you're talking about right now. You need to break that down further. And then I have that in the back of my mind when I go into client meetings. Like sometimes I get on a roll and I'm just talking about stuff and everybody's nodding their head and I'm thinking everybody's getting it. But then I'm like, but Bucky's a really smart guy and he's not getting it. And these guys aren't at that level either. So let me go deeper. So that's what I learned from doing this. I don't remember exactly what tangent you were on besides that.
I was on my tangent of going to this affordable housing, and it's called the crisis, as they were calling it in this meeting, because we have approximately 4,900 apartments coming to Rochester right now as of the last year. 200 of them are affordable, so that means majority of them are over $1,000 a month. So if you're getting a job at a hotel, like good luck finding a place to stay in these newer developments. And so 15 people in the room, and we're talking about important stuff, really important stuff. And there is not one camera going. There is not any of this information being recorded for more than the 15 people to hear this outside of word of mouth. And it's like, I need to recognize that's why I'm there, not only to provide the millennials' point of view to the situation of you can't find housing below $1,000 a month, and that's an issue when you're a student, but also to get the message out there further. And then also doing that as a commercial real estate agent shows that I'm in those conversations, which leads to opportunities, leads to an affordable housing developer finding me online and saying, hey, I found you. I want to come and build a project in Rochester. And it's all because I had the cojones to take my camera and put it on live and set it up in the corner of the room. And, you know, I should ask for permission prior just so I clear it with the old guards that aren't used to that generation. But nonetheless, it's just like, I've been in this situation over and over, and it's like, there's 15, 20, maybe 50 people in the room. That's it. No cameras going. And I'm going, we are wasting so much precious time right now because we're the only ones hearing this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, what the internet has done for all of us, it's both ways. The people broadcasting the information and the people receiving the information, is the dialogue is completely open now. Like, the conversations like you're discussing, that information for someone like me or a lot of other people in the area, for one, it's hard for any of them to know that that's a meeting that's probably even taking place. It might be talked about in places like the newspaper that they aren't reading, or maybe someone talked about it on the news that, hey, this is open. I don't know if it was open or not, but let's say it was a public thing that they could come to. Most people don't receive the information that this public event is happening and you can attend and you can speak your mind. And also, most people aren't going to show up physically, whether they're nervous to do that or it's inconvenient for them to do that. But when you open that up to online, and then they're more comfortable to pop into maybe a chat room and ask a question that they want to ask, to have peace of mind, to feel like at least they were involved in that process. And that's what this allows companies and boards to do, and they need to take advantage of that.
For sure. We got 5 more minutes, so I want to dive into just some things that people could take away, and maybe you can take it away to some of your clients as to what they can be doing tomorrow, today, this week. And so one thing that came to mind for me is I did a Google Hangout, like I mentioned with Katie, and we got all done with all these great ideas she needs to be doing on social. And I was like, all right, now we need to practice what we preach. We're going to do a Snapchat, and you're going to tell me 3 things about Coral, 3 things about Cape Coral, and you ready? And she's like, oh my gosh, I just got super nervous. Like, what? You know, like, and that's so funny. Like, we can talk about these ideas of what we want to do on social, get super jacked up, but then when it comes to actually doing it, even in a 10-second format on Snapchat, we freeze up. And so I will tell the small businesses, other commercial real estate agents, anybody, the best place to just break the ice is really Snapchat. Because if you bring out the camera and set it up and set it in the corner and hit record, like, then you feel like everybody in the world is watching, including the FBI. And like in Snapchat, it's like, okay, it's only probably my 20 to 100 followers if I'm lucky, and it's only 10 seconds, and I can delete it if I don't like it and add a goofy hat to my face or whatever just to make it look goofy. So yes, you start forcing Snapchat in front of people, and then you create content.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the theme. This is our 12th episode. That's been the theme of all of them. You just have to do it. I mean, you can sit and come up with a list of 20 reasons not to do anything on the planet if you wanted to. If you have one reason to do it, just try it. There's nothing, I mean, what's the worst that could happen if you go on Snapchat and say something dumb? I mean, there's probably some bad things that can happen, especially if you're a business, but just be smart about it, do it, and try it. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but it might be for you, and it might give you significant advantage over the companies that are waiting until it's widely adopted to then jump in.
And they're not even waiting. What they're doing is they're making money and not having to worry about it. And so they're just not paying attention to it. And here's your opportunity to completely start claiming territory.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say with any of these platforms, we've also talked about this before, when you join them, and let's say I'm interested in, I don't know, some sort of interior cabinetry or something, woodworking, and I join these new obscure networks, the first thing I'm going to do is look for the leader on that network for cabinetry. If it's early, it could be the guy down the street for all I know. But once that platform hits mass appeal, it's going to be the major people, and I'm not going to have a chance. So you've got to get there first and grow your network before the big guys take those people.
Exactly. Another thing I've noticed here, and it's kind of a takeaway, I think, for any businesses, I really feel like Instagram is going to be a threat to reckon with when it comes to Snapchat. I experienced it today when a guy messaged me, and I see his name, and I click on it. He has no profile photo. I know I've chatted to him in the past, but I can't quite remember who it is. And it's like, if this was on Instagram, I can dig in. Takes 2 seconds. So I said, hey, send me your Instagram thing. He sent it to me, looked it up. It's like, oh, okay, it's that guy, right? It felt awkward to say, hey, send me a video, send me a picture of yourself. Like, I can't remember who you are. So that, I think that's a scary thing if I'm Snapchat and I'm trying to build what I'm trying to build. So I bring that up. So businesses, small businesses, if you're focusing time on Snapchat, really start paying attention on Instagram, because you're not doing this just for fun. You're doing it to add to your bottom line, to claim that territory. And so I would tell you, you may, and I'm talking to myself right now, you may want to start doing more on Instagram.
Yeah, I would say we see that already in the agencies. Our clients, there's interest in Snapchat. Everybody is coming to a point where they're all interested in it. I would say 6 months ago, it was like, don't talk about that. Now it's a point where it's a conversation at least, but it always comes back to, how do we find people? How do people find us? How do we measure it? Which is all things Snapchat you can't do. Instagram, you can be discovered by people, and you can do that through hashtags, or they all have accessible profiles on those. You can do searches. You can measure the results. Like, my Instagram is considered a business account, so I can see how many every one of my Instagram images has for views. I can see my most viewed images. I can see the images with the highest reach. So you can measure all of that stuff on Instagram, and you can't measure that on Snapchat. So that's what a lot of businesses need.
Right. And what I would say, you can have multiple people manage an account. It sucks to have multiple people manage an account on Snapchat because it kicks the other person off. So that's tough to scale. Last but not least, we're on our 30-minute call, wrapping it up, but I wanted to share that I did my first ever Snapchat filter. And so what I would tell the small businesses out there, it was $68 from 5 p.m. till 3 o'clock in the morning. I was trying to market my father's burger joint. It was doing it at what was called social ice. So us Minnesotans get around ice and drink beer, and that seems to be a cool thing to do. And so I added a filter of Snappy Stop, take this screenshot, buy one, get one. And I also put at the top kind of a little witty thing, where did all the ice go, ? Because it was really hot and all the ice melted. So I love the numbers I got back, because it was so easy to see within 24 hours. 46 people used it. There was over 600 people that swiped by it. Because of the 46 people used it, it reached over 1,000 people or something like that, because it shared on their story, if you will. So that was cool, just live time numbers. I don't know what to do with those numbers because I'm a small business and I don't know how to convert that just yet. But it was cool to see that, and then it helped me understand how it kind of worked. And what I would tell a small business, as we just got done saying, "Ooh, watch out, Snapchat might be going away," related to Instagram and how much traction, you have to recognize there's still attention there, and the attention is still probably underpriced in your market. And there's something to be especially said about first comers. So when you're there, when you have the biggest billboard in town on the busiest street, and you're able to get it for a deal, and people drive by it and see it, there's something to be said about that brand awareness. So the $68, was it worth it? Yes, it was worth it, just to get that experience, get it done. Now I got to figure out, if I keep spending $68, how am I getting a return on it? But there's something to be said about that first time. Local designer created it. Fortunately, he did it pro bono, which was awesome because he wanted to try it out. And yeah, so I got my first Snapchat filter, and it worked.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the downside to Snapchat, is you have to pay for that data. But the filter does work great. So like I told you, because you sent me the numbers on how many people had used it, and I always say that that's always just part of it. There's so many people that have this moment where they're swiping through the filters, and they stop and they go, wow, that's really cool. And they see the brand, they see Snappy Stop. They don't use it, they move on. But it still leaves that impression of in their mind. And you did that, so you only get charged on Snapchat for the use. You did that for free. You had to pay for the uses, and you got so much more out of that than the actual uses. And then when you talk about how you measure those results, so you're telling me you got like $68 and you got 45 uses, so that's like $1.50 a use, and you reached 1,000 people. In marketing, we use 1,000 impressions as the baseline, so cost per 1,000 impressions. So if you tell me you had a $68 CPM, that's a little high, but what you always have to include in that is that these CPMs are so much more important than the CPMs of like a banner ad. You might get 1 million impressions on a banner ad for a CPM of $6, but those are completely useless impressions. So those are valuable CPMs to have, like valuable uses to have at a not a bad CPM. So it's
good point. And that makes me think of Gary Vee. We'll wrap it up with this, where he's like, so there's these math geeks and they get all jacked up about, oh my gosh, look at all the impressions. Well, the only reason all those impressions were there was because we all know the little X on the screen is tiny, and it popped up in front of my ESPN LeBron James dunk, so I had to look at the Sprint ad, and I could barely hit the X, and it just pissed me off. And like all these people in the back end are like, oh my gosh, all these people looked at that, wow. And little do you know, you pissed off 99% of them.
Yeah.
So there's no nice job.
Yeah, we have to always educate the clients on that. They always want to see huge impressions, because there's still so many agencies that focus on impressions and not what's actually happening with those impressions. So when they come from maybe another agency and they're like, wow, we used to be getting 10 million impressions a month, then we always have to say, yeah, but we're giving you 2 million impressions that are way better than those 10 million because X, Y, and Z. And then eventually they come around when they see the results.
There you go. So wrapping it up, saying, hey, go get a local designer, ask them to make one up. They probably will do it pro bono because it's a cool thing to do and not too many people are doing it, depending on what market you're in. And then go and put it over an event, put it over something where there's people, and get those numbers and plan on spending $100 probably and see what it does for you. So thank you, Dallas.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. This will be number 12, and it'll be up on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, everything.
One thing we don't have right now is a lot of conversations with anybody that's ever listened to it. For all I know, we're talking to ourselves. So if there's anybody out there, we're both on Twitter. Your boss, DJ, I'm Bucky Beeman. We're both on Instagram. We're all over the place. So hit us up. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if you have questions. Let us know if you have topics. We need a guest. We've said that before. It's a lot more fun when it's more than just Dallas and I, even though you're pretty cool.
Yeah. It's even if I'm talking to nobody, it's still good talking to you, Bucky.
There we go. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.